Heading 9 months into the Russia-Ukraine war, the world is witnessing yet another heartbreaking calamity. A calamity that erupted soon after the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. With not even a glimmer of hope that Russia will be forfeiting the war, Ukraine has sought help of several countries to aid them in their battle against Russia. Many countries worldwide have responded very positively, and one among them is the European Union. In today's video, we will be looking into the measures initiated by the European Union to help Ukraine in its war against Russia. The European Union has come together and joined hands to help Ukraine by launching the European Union Military Assistance Mission in support of Ukraine, recognized under the name EUMAM Ukraine. The sole objective of the mission is to improve the military strength of Ukraine to give them a fighting chance against the Russians, to defend their homeland as well, and to protect innocent civilians in Ukraine. EUMAM Ukraine has a non-executive mandate to provide individual, collective, and specialized training to up to 15,000 Ukrainian armed forces personnel over multiple locations in the territory of EU member states. The mission will have its headquarters in Brussels, and French Navy Vice Admiral Hervé Briand has been assigned the role of mission commander. Apart from providing military assistance, the Union has also set up an assistance measure under the European Peace Facility worth 16 million euros to support the capacity of building the Ukrainian armed forces by the EUMAM Ukraine. These measures are taken to equip the Ukraine army with transportation, custody, maintenance, and repair of the equipment financed through the assistance measure. The entire operation will have a duration period of up to 2 years. The military operation was established on the 17th of October this year. Ukraine's Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, addressed the meeting of his European Union counterparts through a video message from a shelter in Kyiv and instructed them to provide more air defenses and sanction Iran over drone supplies to Russia after strikes hit the city. Speaking of the drone attack, Russia is attacking Ukraine's vulnerable civilian infrastructure with drones, knocking out the power supply and threatening a hard winter. Iran denies supplying the weaponry and any involvement with Russia in the drone attack, but video evidence points against Iran's claims. Meanwhile, European Union nations, including Germany and France, are already training Ukrainians to use the modern artillery systems, missile launchers, and air defenses they are delivering to Kyiv. Apart from the European Union, several other nations like Canada, the USA, and Britain have stepped forward to assist Ukraine. Since February 2022, Canada has committed over $1 billion in military assistance to Ukraine. They have already been training thousands of troops. London is aiming to train 10,000 within this year and looking to more than double the next year. The final details of the European training are still being hammered out, but an official said that the plan is initially to provide basic training to 12,000 soldiers and specialized instruction to 2,800 more. Ukraine's neighbor Poland is due to serve as the main hub for the mission. The European training mission should become operational by mid-November. Recently, the European Union also approved a 6th tranche of money, worth 500 million euros for Ukraine's military through the European Peace Facility, which raises the contribution to Kyiv's military to over 3 billion euros so far. Individual countries are also spending more on top of that. Military backup and manpower are reinforced, and we have discussed it so far. But now, let's talk the big guns. Many countries stepped up to provide Ukraine with the arms and ammunition necessary to fight off the Russians. The United States has by far provided the most military assistance to Ukraine, more than every other country combined. Germany and Sweden have reversed past policies against providing offensive military aid to support Ukraine, while the European Union, for the first time in its history, supplied lethal arms through its institutions. Individual EU member states have provided military, financial, and non-lethal material aid. 450 million euros worth of lethal weapons was announced on the 27th of February 2022 under the European Peace Facility. Followed by that, military aid increased to 1.5 billion euros under the European Peace Facility on 13th of April 2022. The assistance includes personal protective equipment, first aid kits, fuel, and military equipment. Furthermore, protective gear worth over 977,000 euros was donated to the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine on the 8th of July 2022. And an additional 500 million euros military aid package for Ukraine was approved by the European Union on the 18th of July 2022. Apart from raising funds and providing military assistance and weapons, the European Union has fought back in a discreet manner by boycotting supplies to and from Russia. European Union officials have reported that member nations agreed to impose a price cap on Russian oil and other new sanctions after Moscow illegally annexed 4 regions in Ukraine. The deal was struck in Brussels that also includes curbs on export of aircraft components to Russia and limits on steel imports from the country. They will also impose a ban on transporting Russian oil by sea to other countries above the price cap, which the group of 7 wealthy democracies wants in place by December 5. A ban on providing IT, engineering, and legal service to Russian entities also took effect. EU measures to date include restrictions on energy from Russia, bans on financial transactions with Russian commodities, including the central bank, and asset freezes against more than 1,000 people and 100 organizations. All these measures will definitely leave a dent in Russia's economy and the welfare of its people. The combined effects of these would compel Russia to reconsider withdrawing from the war. But at the same time, these countries cannot risk going all out in support of Ukraine against Russia, as the situation is really tense. A slight political or military miscalculation could be something we could call World War III. Yeah, World War III could be a real bummer. All the international leaders have many concerns about the possibility of World War III. The leaders of different nations fear the world might get shaken by the threat of a new world war. Therefore, all nations have been staying away from each other's fears. None of them have been expressing their dislikes, and the aggressions by countries like Russia, Iran, and China have fueled a range of geopolitical tensions. It is very necessary to remain neutral in these times for the sake of peace and harmony. Well, all those are concerns, but not something to be brushed aside negligently. At present, the war has caused havoc for both countries. Military losses have been heavy on both sides, with about 9,000 Ukrainians and as many as 25,000 Russians reported to be dead. Besides that, there is destruction to infrastructure, economy, livelihood, and many families. It's high time to realize that war does not settle anything. No amount of territory gained or glory achieved is worth the lives that have been sacrificed for. Therefore, recently, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on G19 world leaders to end the Russian invasion. President Zelensky said in his speech, "I am convinced now is the time when Russian destructive war must and can be stopped." In response to this, the Group of 20, G20, unanimously adopted the declaration, saying most members condemned the war in Ukraine. However, the document at the end of their summit acknowledged some countries saw the conflict differently. The president of host Indonesia, referring to the Russia-Ukraine war, said, "The discussion on this was very tough, and by the end, the G20 leaders agreed to the content of the declaration, which was the condemnation of the war in Ukraine, because it has violated the country borders and integrity." Wars are man-made disasters. To quote the famous writer H.G. Wells, "If we don't end the war, war will end us." Let's all hope that Russia and Ukraine will find a way to resolve their conflicts peacefully and establish harmony as soon as possible. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Hope you found our content to be informative.